Job chapter 12, and we'll begin there in verse 13. But just to give a little bit of a background as to Job and what's going on with him here, we know that he lost nearly everything. Um, I guess you could say he lost everything but his life. God instructed the tempter, the tormentor, to that or gave him permission, I guess, to harm Job in every way except for that he could not take his life. And while Job is in the midst of all this turmoil and pain and all these problems, his friends come to him, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar. You remember those guys, and they had all the answers for poor Job as to why he was suffering, and one of the biggest reasonings by those individuals as to why Job was experiencing such awful things was that he was just a sinner, and he was a bad person. And because he was such a bad person, more or less, they were giving him the karma speech. Now, what goes around comes around, Job. And so as they're coming to him with all sorts of and here's the quote fingers, wisdom, Job has something to say to them. Because as you'll remember about Job, kind of giving away the rest of the book because we don't have time to study it all, Job, he of course goes through so much turmoil mentally. His body hurts, but his mind does too. And he's really trying to figure out God, so he has a lot of questions of his own. But as his own wife tells him to curse God and die, and his friends also tell him, look, man, just give it up. Things are rotten. Just throw in the towel. Job never does. He stays true to God. He stays true to his faith in the Creator who had provided all things. And Job knew all too well that what the Lord can provide, the Lord also can take away. So in Job chapter 12, beginning in verse 13, and there's a verse there in verse 2 and 3 I want you to look at in his answer to his friends first. Job 12, verses 2 and 3, no doubt but ye are the people, and wisdom shall die with you. But I have understanding as well as you. I am not inferior to you, yea, who knoweth not such things as these? Now watch him go on down in verse 12. With the ancient is wisdom, and in length of days understanding. Job recognizes, first of all, that his friends don't have all the answer, and second of all, he doesn't have all the answers either. But he knows one that does. When he says the ancient, you've heard the Bible refer to God as the ancient of days, right? There is no beginning and end to God. And you know what? There's no beginning and end to his wisdom either, to what he knows, to what you can learn from him. And that's what Job is about to tell his friends. So, Job 12, verse 13. With him, the ancient, is wisdom and strength. He hath counsel and understanding. Behold, he breaketh down, and he cannot be built again. He shutteth up a man, and there can be no opening. Behold, he withholdeth the waters, and they dry up. Also he sendeth them out, and they overturn the earth. With him is strength and wisdom. The deceived and the deceiver are his. Incidentally, verse 15 is a reference to the flood. Verse 17, he leadeth counselors away, spoiled, maketh the judges fools. He looseth the bonds of kings, and girdeth their loins with the girdle. He leadeth princes away spoiled, and overthroweth the mighty. He removeth away the speech of the trusty, and taketh away the understanding of the aged. He poureth contempt upon princes, and weakeneth the strength of the mighty. He discovereth deep things out of darkness, and bringeth out to the light the shadow of death. He increaseth the nations, and destroyeth them. He enlargeth the nations, and straighteneth them again. He taketh away the earth of the chief of the people of the earth, and causeth them to wander in a wilderness where there is no way. They grope in the dark without light, and he maketh them to stagger like a drunken man. So after a speech like that, how much do Bildad, Eliphaz, and Zophar really know? And what better answer could Job have given his friends other than, you know what, I don't have all the answers, but God does. And we know that Job would not leave God, that he would not leave his side. That while his faith may have wavered, it may have been rocked a bit, he never gave up. And he realized that with him, with God, resided true wisdom. I guess, one of the uh, most important facts, the most important truths for us to come to in life is that we don't know it all. The most important truth that we can all come to is that we don't have all the answers. But such truth, as people have eventually come to such things, has really led a lot of people astray. A lot of people have come to the truth of, I can't get it all right. I don't know all the answers. But then they have nothing to fall back on after that. Their answer after such a premonition or such a realization is that you can't even know truth. You can't know what's right and what is wrong. You can't know what's good and what is bad. What's good for you may be bad for me and vice versa. But that's not at all what Job is saying. Saying you may come to the realization that you don't know it all, but there's somebody who does. And that there is a foundation there that we all can fall back on. And Job knew it all too well. Proverbs chapter 8. You can leave Job. Kind of an introduction to what we're talking about today. Again, thinking about wisdom and knowing what God would have us to know. Proverbs 8, verse 1. Doth not wisdom cry, and understanding put forth her voice? She standeth in the top of the places by way in the places of the paths. She crieth at the gates in the entry of the city, at the coming in at the doors. Tell me you can't know. Verse 4, Unto you, O men, I call, and my voice is to the sons of man. O ye simple, understand wisdom, and ye fools, be ye of understanding heart. Hear, for I will speak of excellent things, and the opening of my lips shall be right things. For my mouth shall speak truth, and my wickedness is an abomination to my lips. All the words of my mouth are in righteousness. There is nothing forward or perverse in them. They are all plain to him that understandeth, and right to them that find knowledge. Receive my instruction, and not silver, and knowledge rather than choice gold. For wisdom is better than rubies, and all things that may be desired are not to be compared to it. Verse 12 says, I, wisdom, dwell with prudence, and find out knowledge of witty inventions. We know that Proverbs has so much to say about wisdom, about knowledge. And we understand that a person can become, entirely too smart for his own good. That a person can gain so much knowledge that he really doesn't need the instructions of anyone, especially a God. And that's why we started with Job this morning. Because at one point in time, things were going really well for him. And then, in a blink of an eye, they weren't. But he always knew that one knew more than he did. And that's what we would, I guess, refer to as heavenly wisdom. And what do we mean by wisdom? We've said it before in here, but wisdom is more than just knowing something, right? That's why the Proverbs writer always distinguishes between wisdom and knowledge. Wisdom is more than just knowing something. Wisdom is knowing something and then having the ability to apply it. Now, I can know that sticking my finger in a light socket is detrimental to me or to my health. I can know that going out there and touching that electric fence is detrimental to my health. But where wisdom kicks in is where I don't do it. That's wisdom. Wisdom is more than just experience. It has to be coupled with knowledge. So when I understand what God wants for my life, I am not wise until I do it. In man's wisdom, an earthly wisdom, it's limited to earth. James chapter 3 and verses 13 through 18. You need to have your Bible still there. James 3, verse 13 says, "Who is a wise man and endued with knowledge among you? Let him show out of a good conversation his works with meekness and wisdom." Notice the action that's involved in wisdom there. Notice that. "But if you have bitter envying and strife in your hearts, glory not and lie not against the truth. This wisdom descendeth not from above, but is earthly, sensual, and devilish." So here's the here's the three descriptions, I guess, of wisdom from the earth. Man's wisdom. Wisdom that's opposed to God's wisdom. It's limited to the earth. That is, when you try to look beyond to spiritual things, it's not possible. Earth's wisdom does not allow mankind to even see heaven. Earth's wisdom doesn't allow mankind to even get a glimpse of a God who is spirit. Therefore, earth's wisdom does not allow me to see beyond my physical condition here on earth. Can you imagine if Job would have had such a wisdom? I think that's the type of wisdom his friends had. That they could not see beyond what was happening right in front of their eyes. There was no more than that. The wisdom of earth is earthly. You can't see beyond it. There is a large hedge that occurs. It does not allow us to see further than what we see here. Job didn't have wisdom of the earth. He had a heavenly wisdom. What else does James say that is accompanied with earthly wisdom? He says that it's earthly, but that it's also sensual. A little bit of the same, but a little bit more to it. It's characterized by humanness. I don't know if you guys have ever looked into the Humanist Manifesto at all. I believe men like Anthony Flew. I think there's the Humanist Manifesto 1, and then they wrote another one just to define and make things more ridiculous, I guess. But in a nutshell, humanity doesn't have to answer to anything higher than itself. That there is no more than what you're looking at. That once you're dead, you're dead. So live it up. Seek fortune, seek fame, seek pleasure, because this is it. This is it. With earth's wisdom, there's humanness. You can't see beyond what's sitting in front of you, much is the same as the fact that it's earthly. It's characterized by humanness, but you know what? Since it is characterized by humanness, it's also characterized by frailty. How long do sensual things last? Not very long. They fade, don't they? Things that feel good. For how long do they feel good? Not very long. I like chili dogs. They feel good for a minute, but then they don't feel so good later. It's my sensual side. My sensual side for an oatmeal cream pie. Feels good for a minute, then it's not so good. But that's what earthly wisdom is characterized by. Humanness, sensuality, and also, friends, it's unsanctified. And here's what I mean by that. It's not set apart from the masses in any way, shape, or form. What does God call us to? He calls us to holiness. And one thing about Job, one thing you always know about Job is he was different than everybody else that he talked to in the narrative of that book. And the narrative of that point and period in his life, no matter who he talked to, whether it was his friends or his wife, he was different than they were. And that's what sanctification is. It's being set apart. It's being different. It's being a peculiar people. And in earthly wisdom, there is no setting apart. We're not different. We're part of the masses. You may think you have an independent thought. I'm an independent thinker. No, you're not thinking any different than anyone else has. To say that there is no God, the Bible said a long time ago that that's foolishness. So if you think you're thinking differently than anybody else by saying so, it's foolishness. And it's unsanctified. And in all honesty, to say that there is a God, He is alive, and I live in Him, and I survive, that's sanctified, that's holy, that's different, and that's peculiar. And God's going to save a remnant. That's why the path is narrow. I don't want to be like the masses. Man's wisdom is limited to earth. It's characterized by humanness. But you know what? The third thing, and the most scary part about it, that pushes us and should really spurn us to want to have the wisdom that's from above, that's not earthly, is that it's generated, it's created, and it's propagated by the forces of Satan. Notice, it's devilish. Where do you think all this wisdom comes from? The earthly wisdom. The intelligence of man. Men like Richard Dawkins, and I can't remember the fellow that's in a wheelchair. What's his name? Stephen Hawking. Oh, they're so smart. They're so intelligent. But you hear those guys get asked very simple questions. Questions like, where did men come from then? Where did we come from? Well, they don't have an answer for it. And I saw during one interview, Mr. Richard Dawkins claim that we may have come from aliens. Devilish. Guises of Satan. Attempting to fool. Attempting to get men to believe that sensuality is what's important. And getting men to believe that this is all there is. So I love James' description of earthly wisdom. But look in verse 17. You want to know the exact opposite of all those things? He said, but the wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, then gentle, and easy to be entreated, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. And the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace of them that make peace. Notice what comes with earthly wisdom. Proverbs chapter 24 and verse 13. Again, Proverbs, of course, that's the great wisdom chapters there. Proverbs 24 and verse 13. Be both verses 13 and 14. My son, eat thou honey because it is good, and the honeycomb which is sweet to thy taste, so shall the knowledge of wisdom be unto thy soul. When thou hast found it, then there shall be a reward, and thy expectation shall not be cut off. How many things do you expect to happen and don't? Well, when true wisdom arrives, your expectation will not be cut off. When your wisdom is governed by God and His promises, and His love, and His mercy, and His honesty, it will not be cut off. And for our application, Matthew chapter 13, final verse for this morning. Matthew 13. Jesus' disciples are asking why He speaks in parables the way He does. And I want you to really think about the difference between earthly wisdom and heavenly wisdom as we read through this passage. And think about how different Job would have been if he would have listened to his friends, or if he had written God off after the early rounds of trial and tribulation. Matthew 13, verse 11, He answered and said to them, because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given. For whosoever hath, to him shall be given, and whosoever have more abundance, but he shall have more abundance. But whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken away even that he hath. Therefore speak I to them in parables, because they seeing see not, and hearing they hear not, neither do they understand. And in them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah, which saith, By hearing ye shall hear, and shall not understand, and seeing ye shall see, and shall not perceive. For this people's heart is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing. And their eyes they have closed, lest at any time they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and should understand with their heart, and should be converted, and I should heal them. But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. For verily I say unto you, that many prophets and righteous men have desired to see those things which ye see, and have not seen them, and to hear those things which ye hear, and have not heard them. Hear ye therefore the parable of the sower. And you know what that talks about. The different types of soil. How some hear, and some will not even hear. So do you see the difference between earthly and heavenly wisdom in that little passage of Scripture right there? How those who will not hear, who refuse, how they could be governed by man's wisdom. How come they can't hear? Jesus says, hearing they hear not. Why? Because what they know is limited to earth. Because what they know is characterized by humanness and frailty, and what they know is generated by the forces of Satan. That's why when they hear, they don't really actually hear. And that's why in Proverbs, the Proverbs passage that we read, Proverbs 8, remember it talked about, those of you who are foolish, hear and listen. Well, they're not foolish by God's standards, but by the standards of men like Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar. You're foolish. You don't understand. And I guess that's been the way for mankind for many, many ages. As men put their faith in God, others will ridicule. Others will accuse them of not being smart. Oh, the foolishness of believing in someone who will not show himself. Oh, the foolishness of believing in one who you claim works miracles. Those things aren't possible. But you saw it happen. Seeing, they see not. So, this morning, take the message of wisdom with you to try to eradicate to the best of our ability, and really trying to bring this down home to where we can take it and use it. It's something you got to dig deep on. Is my wisdom, is what I know, and how I try to apply it, is it based on earthly wisdom? By things that I think I know, or things that I've learned here on this planet? Is my wisdom based on what I see right in front of me, or is my wisdom truly based on the knowledge of God? And if you stripped me down, just all bare, strip me down to the floor, take everything away from me that I know, and everything that I think holds me up, and as I'm on my last leg, what would I do with the wisdom of God? Would I find out that it's always been the wisdom of the world that I've been trusting in? Or would I find out after all is gone that God's wisdom is most important to me? And those are things I can't help you with. Those are things that we got to find alone time and dig down deep to find out. To find out if I trust in man's wisdom or in the wisdom that's from above, that is pure, peaceful, and true. If you have a need this morning, Dixon has selected a song and make it known. There's not many of us here, so remember this week to pray for those who are ill and those who are struggling. Blessings to you.